This is effectively a mini Model S. Similar features, smaller size, but with a more reasonable price tag. It's the newly upgraded Tesla Model 3, and in 2024, it hardly needs an introduction following its rave reviews by automotive experts. So if you've been living under a rock for the past few months, this newly refreshed Tesla Model 3 has swapped over 50% of its parts over the previous generation Model 3, gaining features found on the Model S, such as ventilated seats, a rear passenger screen, and a newly announced addition, hands-free trunk, and that's coming exclusively to the 2024 Tesla Model 3, plus that Model S and X via a free over-the-air software update, literally any day now. Even the hot off the press Model 3 Performance has a bespoke performance chassis, and that's tailored to eke more handling and performance out of the Model 3. It even comes with ludicrous looking aesthetic features literally everywhere you look, from the front, behind, left or right. The Performance Model 3 really looks the part now as a true performance model, but it also comes with a £20,000 premium over the base Model 3. However, that's only $9,000 in the US, including the tax credit. So is the Performance Model 3 worth the money? Or is the long-range Model 3 offering the best of both, being the middle ground between both trims at a sweeter price point? Well, the best Model 3 for you isn't as easy as it seems, but the clarity on what suits you best is what this video will clear up today. So you should be in good hands, as I've been bringing these comparisons to life for new Tesla owners for some time, and my comparison offers a slightly different perspective to other creators, as I focus on what goes beyond comparing the spec sheets, as I do my best to highlight and apply real life practicality along the way to help you understand the real world range of each trim and if the extra charging speed is warranted for your truly unique circumstances. So for example, an hour in time saved charging over the course of a year may not be worth the additional cost to you, but that's the level of detail that I can highlight to you today. Plus, I'll do my best to cover some of the finer details not easily found on the Tesla website, such as the material differences to the door trims, and so this is where my Tesla obsession truly becomes useful, I guess. You'll be the best judge of that. Anyhow, if you haven't already, I appreciate if you could just like the video, subscribe. Let's get into this bad boy. Starting with potentially the biggest and most important difference, the range and charging speed differences in the 2024 variants, and where and why it doesn't matter in every scenario. Now, you're probably thinking, why did you just say that, Adam? The practical differences will make sense in just a second. Onto the base Model 3 rear-wheel drive, you'll be pleased to hear it delivers a whopping 513 kilometers or 319 miles WLTP range. And the range increase for the new Model 3 comes exclusively from efficiency upgrades, which means the Model 3 still has the same LFP battery pack as before. What that means for you is that this battery pack can be charged to 100% more regularly, with less impact to the battery degradation and its performance. So it's an absolute workhorse, and so that makes it more user-friendly for the user. This effectively means even in the years to come, at 100% state of charge, you should still be incredibly close to its original rated range of 319 miles. The biggest downside of this LFP battery pack is that its peak rapid charging speed will be limited to 170 kilowatts, whereas the long range and performance Model 3 will peak at 250 kilowatts. However, don't judge a book by its front cover. We'll compare the practicalities of that after we've looked at the M3P and the long range's range and charging speed specs. Bit of a mouthful that. The refreshed long-range Model 3 will be able to drive a massive 391 WLTP miles or 629 kilometers. Again, this boost also came from the aero efficiency changes from the car design and not an upgraded battery pack. Day to day, you'll be advised to charge this to between 80 and 90% for everyday driving, unless you know you need to use the full 100% of the pack, for which you can utilize it when you need it. Therefore, at 100%, you'll gain another 72 miles of range with the long range Model 3. But there is that little bit more battery care in mind over the rear wheel drive Model 3 when it comes to charging the vehicle. The rapid charging speed is also much higher at 250 kilowatts, therefore reaching and maintaining higher charging speeds are possible thanks to its larger battery pack. The Model 3 Performance is not optimized for range or to be the most efficient Model 3 on offer. It's designed to be the one that makes it easy on the eyes and the one that can do 0 to 60 times in a whopping 2.9 seconds with a top speed of 163 miles per hour, so that's 38 miles per hour, more speed than both the rear-wheel drive and the long-range model. 3. Range for the Model 3 Performance is only 9 miles more than the rear-wheel drive Model 3 at 328 miles WLTP, but the same 250 kilowatts charging speed of the long range. So that was the headline specs. But let's step aside and look at this in a new perspective and in practical terms. What does this all mean and which vehicle is more suited to who, when and where, just on the range and charging speed alone? Well, you'll be pleased to know that the Model 3 rear-wheel drive trim will be suited for most people, especially with home charging overnight. In fact, it's agile enough to deal with daily trips and the occasional road trip with ease. The receipts on this are coming, so stick with me here. Don't be of the mindset that this rear-wheel drive Model 3 is just suited as a city car only. It can very much handle the road trips, where the true difference between the long-range Model 3 will be felt is how often will you be completing round trips of over 319 miles. This is where the extra range of the long range, but most importantly, that charging speed will be felt most. Personally, I simply don't complete over 300-mile road trips often, for which is why I only use superchargers just a handful of times over the course of the year. So the price tag difference in cost is just not worth it for me. And here's my example of this. If I was to do a 612-mile round trip, for which I never do, but will do it for this simulation, how much charging time do you think the long range would save you over the rear-wheel drive? 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour? This prediction is based on some fleet data too, so it has some real-world substance to this, and not just official specs. Thanks to a better route planner, by the way, for this simulation, the answer is it saves just 22 minutes. Now, how often do you complete a similar 600-mile trip across the year? Say it's 3 times a year, that's 1 hour and 6 minutes of time saved over the course of a year. And this will be even smaller for round trip distances lower than the 612 miles, but over that 300-mile range of the rear-wheel drive Model 3, for which there would be no supercharging requirement here if you're using home or destination charging, so zero time loss. Therefore, this is the tasty question that you must then ask yourself. Is that time saved worth the extra £10,000 or $9,000 premium? And that's the underlying question here. Only you can answer it based on your unique usage. Therefore, you can bring this to life yourself if you do that exact same analysis for your circumstances. And you can use a better route planner too to help you if you like. I'm not sponsored in any way by them, by the way. It's literally just showing you a great website or app to help you understand the range and charging speed capabilities, even after you've calculated it. For most people, I think you'd be surprised by the rear-wheel drive Model 3's practical usable range. But for business users that do occasional daily stints of over 300 miles, the all-wheel drive long-range Model 3 is better than ever thanks to its larger range and fast charging speeds because they're being leaned on more frequently. Now, what about the performance model, you may ask? As I totally left that out, and for good reason. But there's also a little surprise here. On the same comparative trip, it takes just 2 minutes longer to charge than the long range, but your usable range is ultimately lower. So over a larger distance, it will start to fall back even more. Remember, you're buying more performance here and not for range, but still, it proves to be quite capable in these circumstances. Food for thought, perhaps. More on that later. Moving on to the exterior and interior changes, the single and only difference that you will notice to the naked eye for the exterior of the Model 3 is simply the badge at the back of the Model 3 stating that it's a dual motor. Literally, there is no other difference from the ground clearance to the looks of the car to the naked eye at least, unless that you opt for that performance model for which every angle that you'll see is just pure aggression. The new front bumper with splitter, the new rear diffuser, the new spoiler, it sits slightly lower than the rear wheel drive and the long range trims too. The colour options remain the same as do the wheel options, apart from the fact that the Performance Model 3 will use the 20-inch warp wheels as standard. The interior is a real highlight for this newly refreshed Model 3. It has been fully revamped with new ventilated seats, a rear display and blind spot indicators. Available on all trims, but there are differences here and there. The first being the sound system upgrade for opting for that long range Model 3 is more prevalent than ever. Dual amplifiers and dual subwoofers and a total of 17 speakers compared to 9 speakers and an amplifier in the rear wheel drive trim. The only other difference that I did notice is the door trim looks to have a different material between the rear wheel drive and the long range, but if you do opt for the optional white interior, that difference looks to be mitigated. But it definitely looks like the long range Model 3 gets some premium like material on the black door trim at least. Otherwise, there is little difference between the two here. The Model 3 Performance gets two exclusive features over the rear-wheel drive and the long range, and that's the sporty seats and a carbon fibre weave. The sporty seats really do look the part and are supposed to play its part too. So before we head to the conclusion, there are some other differences that you should be aware about that don't necessarily fit in the previous segments of the video. The first being the long range and performance trims are dual motor variants. Therefore, it will be more refined to drive in wintry conditions than the rear-wheel drive Model 3. Plus, there is a sizable increase in the acceleration speed in the long range Model 3, and more so for the performance. As I mentioned before, the 163 mph top speed is also an exclusive to the M3P. Tesla also provides a more favourable warranty period for the long range and performance Model 3 battery and motor. The general warranty looks the same at 4 years and 50,000 miles, but the battery and motor warranty provided by Tesla embeds an extra 20,000 miles for the long range variant over the rear wheel drive allowance of 8 years or 100,000 miles, whichever comes first. Therefore, having the long range and performance Model 3 does enable you to rack up more miles within that 8-year period and still be within your warranty. I know some of you prefer the extra comfort of warranty, so whilst it is a bit of a boring topic, I know, it is a noteworthy difference at least. The final most obvious difference, even though we did touch on it earlier, is the price difference between the trims. Now, this will differ from country to country, for which it's easy to decipher here in the UK. It's in 10,000 increments, so 39, 49,000, 59,000 between all three models. The US, however, is a different breed. It's a little crazy due to the performance actually qualifying for the tax credit and the rear-wheel drive and long-range Model 3s not being qualifying models. So with that, you should check on the website yourself, which is updated frequently with the latest price deals and tax credit eligibility. So to conclude, which Tesla Model 3 is better for you? The 2024 Tesla Model 3 Performance, the Tesla Model 3 Long Range, or the 2024 Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive? Well, I can't make that decision for you. The rear-wheel drive Model 3 is such a good base spec. The long range effectively offers the most range, faster charging speeds, dual motor driving, a better sound system, different door material in the black trim only, and extra mileage allowance for battery and motor warranty over the rear-wheel drive, with performance trading in the range advantage for speed, but also throwing in better seats and better looks in equation. Oh, and a fancy adaptive suspension that's more comfortable every day and offers more sporty drive when required. The question for you then becomes, do you need that extra range and charging speed? Or do you prefer the looks and performance? Or do you go with the rock solid performing rear-wheel drive Model 3 and spend some of that price difference on a paint option or upgrading to a white interior? Even FSD, do I add. The difference between trims in my eyes has never been clearer, and I very much think that the standard Tesla Model 3 will be more than ideal for most people. But with those that do crave nothing but premium sound, or drivers that do complete round trips over 320 miles frequently, are more naturally going to be suited to the Tesla Model 3 long range. Or if you're a speed demon, you already know the answer. The choice is and always yours to make. So did today's video help at all? Did you like my real world simulation, and are you still stuck on which one to buy, or do you finally have that answer? If so, I want to know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, do share it with your friends or family or anyone that may find it beneficial. You folks have been great, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. Try to say that after a few drinks. Long range, long range.